Hey, 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 friends! Happy Wednesday. I always sort of think about what day of the week it is. That's odd. I try to not live my life like beholden to a planner. I'd switched all of my hard copy. Remember the old fashioned planners that I used to love and put stickers in and decorate? I'm all on my, I almost said Outlook calendar, my Google calendar on my phone, which is sometimes I forget to look. Thank goodness for the little pop-up reminders. So let me start off by saying this group is as good as the energy that we have here. And whether you're having conversations with your coach or you're posting things in this group, that's what this is all about. So it's all about sharing information, sharing where you get stuck, maybe a concern that you have. And the cool part is Megan sent me a question and I was like, this is so perfect because if you have this question, other people might have this question or this struggle. So it's a great chance to kind of unfold those opportunities and talk about them as a group. So let's talk about sleep. So for many of you, especially if you are in the, let's be generous, 35 and over category, or you work full time, or you have kids, or you've aged in life a little bit more than maybe your teenage or 20-something friends, sleep may in fact be an issue for you. We have a lot of hormones that are changing in our bodies, a lot of stress that has come into our life. And I would argue with the advent of technology, constant communication, people can always reach you. News information is always coming at you. Even just the stimulation from my iPhone or your phone, TV, you've got podcasts that you can listen to. There's constantly this barrage of information. Very few people, and you can say if you're one of these people, maybe you do a great job of this, but very few people have an allotted portion of downtime, time to really just kind of decompress and get centered again and maybe have some quiet. A lot of people might do that for 5 or 10 minutes in the morning and that's all they get for the day. So fast forward to sleepy time, and it's no wonder a lot of our sleep is jacked up, for lack of a better term. But I want to talk to you. Megan's question was, she is a teacher, and she had a really just wonky night of sleep. She didn't get a whole lot of sleep. And she said the whole next day she was ravenous. She wanted to eat all the things, and in particular, carbohydrates. And she's not alone. I have been there. I can say in the last 6 months or so with the Lyme disease diagnosis and having to move and all the stress of all that, there were a couple of nights where I got very little sleep, very little to the tune of like 3 to 4 hours of sleep. And I would wake up and I would be, I hate that word starving, but like I would feel like I've got to eat something immediately. And then all day I wanted to eat. And I didn't want to eat a salad. I didn't want to eat healthy stuff. I didn't want to drink my Shakeology. I wanted to eat a donut or a cookie or something just high carbohydrate, a bagel, right? Like back to the college days. Here's why that happens. Let me give you a little groundwork. I have some information that I'm going to share with you about sleep and how that correlates to our hormones and our satiety and all of that. But I saw a recent study out of Harvard University. So their medical school and their just basically public health division did a study on sleep deprivation, and they followed 60,000 women. So if you think about that population size, you're going to get some good data for that. Over 16 years, and they looked at everyone at the start of the study was what they would have called healthy, a healthy weight, healthy BMI, healthy cholesterol, blood pressure, all of the things. So when they started the study, they were in the healthy category, all 60,000. That's kind of the entry criteria. And they tracked over the study how much sleep these people got. Now, how do you track sleep? You can do it a lot of ways. Many of you have something like this. You either have an iWatch, I think it's called an iWatch. This is a Fitbit, and it can track sleep overnight. You can see how many hours and how the quality of your sleep. Are you in REM sleep, light sleep, deep sleep? Where are you? How often are you awake? But you probably get a good sense of that in the morning, how you feel. But they looked at these 60,000 people, and what they found were that women who had 5 hours or less of sleep, had a 15% higher risk of obesity, not just gaining weight, but obesity. So obesity is more than just a number on a scale. Obesity takes into consideration you're going to have high cholesterol, probably diabetes, high blood pressure. You set yourself up for a lot of comorbid conditions, a lot of health ills, if you will. Now, let me talk to you about the 5 hours of sleep. That might have been like actual sleep so that they were actually sleeping in those stages. But they might have been in bed for 8 hours. Who knows? I don't have that information, but that might apply to you. You might have said, I went to bed at 10 o'clock and I got up at 6 and I feel like I haven't gotten any sleep. And you might not have. You might have been restless. You might have been stirring about things. You might have been thinking about things overnight. You might have waken up at a certain time. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Let me give you the rest of the study. So you've got a 15% higher risk of being obese. Think about that long term. Is that where we all want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 16 years? I sure don't. The short sleepers, so the people that slept in that 5-hour range or less, had a 30% higher risk of gaining 30 pounds or more during that period. And that might not seem 16 years, 30 pounds. You might think, meh, that's not that big of a deal. But think about the impact on your joints, your bones, your ability to breathe when you're carrying extra weight. And it all comes back to the sleep. So why is the whole sleep thing? Why does that affect how we feel? Why does that affect how we manage our food during the day? Why do we have these cravings? When we have a little bit of sleep and not a lot of sleep, what's going on? So we think of hormones, and a lot of times when women hear the word hormone, you're thinking estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, that type of thing. But when we're talking about weight loss, let's think about the other hormones like insulin, ghrelin, and leptin. And insulin, as you know, is the hormone that's related to blood sugar. So you eat a lot of carbohydrate-loaded foods or sugary foods, and your insulin goes up really high, and then it comes really down, and you're hungry again. What we do with 2B Mindset, which is an amazing part of the program, is that we're eating a lot more vegetation. You're still going to have a little bit of insulin release, but not a lot. You've got high fiber that leaves you feeling full and satisfied. So that's the core concept of this. What about those other two I mentioned? What is ghrelin? What is leptin? If you think of ghrelin, ghrelin is the hormone. I always think of G for ghrelin is the growling of the tummy. It lets you know you're hungry. Actual hunger, not emotional hunger. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But ghrelin is that natural body feeling. So let's just say you go on vacation with your family and you're out doing an activity all day and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I am really hungry. Probably your stomach is growling. That's the ghrelin saying it's time to eat, you need to be fed, okay? So that's a good thing. Leptin is the opposite of that. Leptin tells us that we're full and satisfied. So you've had a nice meal, you've had your fiber-filled carbohydrates, and you're good. You don't have to keep eating because you have that hormone that's released. It's like, whoa, we're done. You're good, okay? When you are sleep deprived, those hormones basically go on vacation. They're like, peace, you didn't give me enough sleep. I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to do today. So that growling is continual. And then you start eating because you feel hungry and you don't have any barrier to say stop. That leptin is like, I'm not interested in helping you today. So the increased craving for carbohydrates is a natural fit for that. Why? What do carbohydrates do? If you've watched the videos, you know that carbohydrates are there to produce energy for us. They are our fuel. It's a quick energy source. It burns quickly. So if you didn't get enough sleep and maybe your body is not feeling energized and well-fueled, you're going to automatically go for carbs. So that's why that happens, to answer your question, Megan. But the energy from the sleep is what we really want, right? To start off the day balanced. So I want you to think about this as you move forward. We don't have to be legalistic about sleep, but I want you to think about good sleep hygiene. So what is good sleep hygiene? It's not you don't have to take a shower before bed, but good sleep hygiene is putting a natural barrier between your regular day and the time to go to bed. So for example, and this is going to be hard for you, it's hard for me. In fact, I rarely do it, but I need to do better at this. The blue light that comes from your phone, your tablet, your TV, that actually impedes the production of melatonin. So you're not going to get that natural release of melatonin, which prepares you for sleep, which helps you aid in really good sleep, okay? 2 hours prior to bed. I know, don't hate me. That's what I want you to do. I want you to be off of electronics 2 hours prior to bed. If you're having trouble sleeping, maybe this is an interim time. Maybe this is something that you do for a little while, and then you are starting to add things back in. Try reading a regular book. An actual page-turning book, not even the tablets that have the low light. Try to go to a book. Do something more meditative, more a hot bath, and listen to some music, right? Flip through a magazine. Do things like that really set your body into motion, calm them down, bring your cortisol levels down, prepare yourself for sleep. The other thing, which is really hard, because I love a great glass of wine. My dad was here. I already mentioned in the group that we had a little too much to drink. Wine or alcohol actually are processed as a toxin in our body, and a lot of us know that. But the time of the day when your body really starts to filter out all of that alcohol consumption is around 3 a.m. So if you wake up routinely around 3 a.m. and you are someone who consumes alcohol, right? No shame in that. But if that's the pattern, that's something we should look at and talk about, because if we can back out of that, maybe only have a glass of wine on the weekend, your sleep is too valuable. So if your body is working overtime to try to process and it's waking you up, it's pulling you out of that rhythm, and then it's going to lead to more carbohydrates, feeling less energy, and leading to all those things. We don't want to get in those habits, okay? I'll read you a couple more things. So when I did the To Be Mindset Master training, when we were really going on a deep dive about sleep, and I'm assuming, this was just a year and a half ago, I'm assuming these statistics are still the same. I did not double check them. But at the time, the data showed that 1/3 of all Americans are obese, okay? That is a lot of people. 1/3 of all Americans are obese. There's actually a study that says 1/3 of all Americans are not getting enough sleep. I think we've covered that. So we can really make some strides with our long-term health gains and correlating sleep, making sure that sleep is a priority, just like your meal prep, just like drinking your water. All of these things play into really optimal health. Now, in the study I talked about from Harvard at the beginning of this, they looked at 5 hours or less, but I would argue that less than 6 hours, 6 hours or less, you're going to get an increase in the chance of obesity. You're going to have more likeliness of heart disease, diabetes. You're going to have those problems with your hormones. So optimal sleep, it's kind of like water. You have to really find out what your body needs, but track it. Find out what's best for you. I've been using my Fitbit for a while, and really for me, optimal sleep is about 7.5 hours. And I usually wake up around 5:30 in the morning, just naturally. I don't set an alarm. But what that means for me is that I have to go to bed at a certain time in order to get that amount of sleep. So it might mean that I don't stay up late and watch a movie. It might mean that I don't try to have too many outside the home activities that might take me into a later night. Protecting that sleep, because our health goals are so important. Why are our health goals so important? It might be just to feel good in the clothing that you wear. But I'd argue that it's much deeper than that for you, because you want to serve well. You want to serve your family well. You want to show up for an employer well. You want to show up in your community well. You really want to be present. You want to be that whole individual for the time that we have on the planet, to be there. And this is the way to do it. So don't neglect sleep. There's an easy answer for what's going on as far as why you're craving more if you've gotten a little bit of sleep. Now, some of you may have more chronic sleep issues. And if you do, drop me a message, comment below, and I'll put you in touch with my favorite sleep doctor. He's online. He's got great information. But what he shares is that your sleeper's not broken. None of us have a broken sleeper. None of us it doesn't matter if you're in menopause, if you're postmenopause, you're premenopause, where you are in the continuum, your sleeper isn't broken. There's little tweaks and changes that you can make to get really good sleep, okay? And it doesn't have to be about taking a pharmaceutical or anything like that. So I hope this was helpful. I'm going to jump off because I've probably talked too long, but y'all have a great day. Get some great sleep this week, and tell me, comment below, what out of this resonated most with you about your sleep patterns and how your sleep patterns could be better. I'd love to hear.